Hey guys, Kunal here, coming at you with a Rengar deck profile. So set 3 just dropped, we got all the reveals, and a lot of people are cooking. I hear a lot of questions about this leader, about not knowing where to start, how to build this deck, cards to consider. So let's hop into it. Hopefully this video helps you out, and please like and subscribe. It goes a long way. So first we got the Rengar leader. Rengar leader says when you play a unit, give a unit +1 might this turn. So the other thing to know with this leader is we have a new mechanic in set 3 called ambush. And ambush pretty much says you may play me as a reaction to a battlefield where you have units. So the synergy should pop off right away. You ambush with units, and the moment that they come out for the turn, they're +1 might. You can choose to give the +1 might to the unit that came out with ambush, or you can give the +1 might to another unit elsewhere. So this has other applications too, where if your opponent wants to play like a falling star or something, and you have like a 5 or 6 might unit on the field, you can ambush, react with one of your units, and then give +1 might to your 6 might unit to save them. So it's a pretty neat trick. It's pretty versatile. So I think you know a lot of people are rating it kind of low, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes in testing. I'm pretty excited to play this. This is a really aggressive leader. It's a red-orange color combination, similar just like how Lucian is. This deck plays really fast, really aggro, and if you enjoy this playstyle, I think you'll enjoy this deck. So let's talk about some of the cards that we have. So first off, in the Chosen Champ slot, we got an orange Rengar, 5 energy, 1 power, and 6 might. This card has the ambush trait, but even more importantly, it has another second ability that says I can be played to a battlefield where there are enemy units. So this card can be used directly from your hand to attack an empty or a battlefield that's controlled by your opponent, whereas these other ambush cards can only be played when you have a unit contesting or holding a battlefield already. So this card's really good. Obviously, you have it if you have it in your champion zone. Your opponent has to respect at any time. You can just surprise defense on a battlefield, so they can't walk into a battlefield unless they already have 7 might or higher, and or another way of pushing this Rengar off of the battlefield to win a showdown. So I think this unit stands out amongst all of the other Rengars to me as the best one. We can quickly talk about the other Rengar unit that was released in this set that is not in my deck list currently. It's this red Rengar, 4 energy, 4 might, costing 1 power. And this guy has all of the keywords, pretty much everything you could hope for. It has Accelerate, has Assault +2, it has Deflect, and it has Ganking. So to me, this is the card that I want in my champ zone for the most part, because you have an on-demand unit that accelerates, and when it attacks, you'll get +2 from the assault, you'll get +1 from your leader, so it's already going to be a 7 might attack, and it only costs you 5 energy to put him into play. Um, and it's a pretty sticky unit because of deflect. If you manage to hold, you can gank to the other battlefield, which is extremely nice. It keeps your ambush train running. So right now, I don't have him in the deck list only because I wasn't too sure what else I want to cut. I want to test out the other cards first and see how they perform, and I'll add this card in after. So moving on to deck list, I'll come back to these spells later. I think we'll focus on the new cards right now. So we got a brand new draw power card called Fresh Beans. When you play a unit during Showdown, you may exhaust this to draw 1. This card's absolutely what this color combination needed. We all know that Red Orange lacks draw power. In Lucian, we were using multiple drawing battlefields in order to mitigate this weakness. So Fresh Beans, very welcome addition to the deck. It makes some really nice early game turns when you have Fresh Beans and Noxious Offal, say on turn 2. You can play the Fresh Beans and the Hopeful in the same turn, so you're not even slowing down your unit development. Otherwise, it's just a nice turn one play, and then it keeps your deck flowing. You're gonna get into a play pattern with this deck where you have to trade your units quite frequently. Just the way the ambush works, your combat tricks are ambush, right? It's not fight or flight, it's not rebuke, it's not these kind of spells that are going to keep your unit alive and may or may not kill the opponent's unit. So your combat tricks being ambush means that most likely one of your units is going to die in a showdown. So having fresh beans to recover the unit that you're ambushing with is extremely nice. It makes the deck stick like it glues the deck together. So next up, we have another new card called Inferna. 2 energy, 0 power with 1 might. This has ambush and this has assault plus 2. One of the one of the staples of this deck, I think. Any card that costs no power is going to be a welcome addition. Any card that has ambush is going to be a welcome addition. We can get into this card more a little bit later, where you can have some really nasty plays and really nasty combos where you repeat this card or bring it back to safety with this guy, Grim Apothecary. The next card is Irresistible Feyfolk, another 2 energy, 0 power, and 1 might unit. This is probably one of the most broken cards released in set 3. This card is single-handedly putting orange on the map. So, I think opponents will have to respect playing around this card. It makes early games extremely punishing for your opponents. This deck, as you'll soon see, is quite a tempo-oriented deck, and playing the Feyfolk on turn 1, it completely neuters your opponent's chance to have any kind of tempo on turn 2 because of our ambush mechanic. So this card reads, when I move to a battlefield, you may move an enemy unit to that battlefield. So how this kind of works is you play this on turn 1, and then on your opponent's turn 1, they might play like a 2 or a 3 drop. And then on your turn 2, you move the Feyfolk into a battlefield. You move the opponent's unit to the same battlefield, and a showdown will start. Obviously, this unit is only going to be at 1 might, so it'll be quite weak and most likely die to the opponent's unit. However, because of your ambush mechanic, you can play something like Inferna, you can play Grim Apothecary, or you can play Nidalee. But yeah, and then by playing these cards, you end up winning the showdown because whenever any of these come down, their might will be like 4 or higher. Grim Apothecary will be at 4, Nidalee will be at 5, Inferna with the assault bonus and the leader bonus would be at 4. So any early game unit that the opponent plays is going to be in range of losing the showdown, and then the opponent will most likely be able to trade out with the Feyfolk. If you do have the Grim Apothecary, who reads, when you play me, you may return a friendly unit at a battlefield to its owner's hand, you do get to actually save your Feyfolk. You get to bounce it back to your hand and then have it again for a future pattern. So yeah, this card, extremely strong. It answers a lot. It serves as like a pseudo removal by forcing a showdown with an enemy's unit. So I think it's just going to be one of the most powerful staples in set 3 for orange, and it's bring orange up a tier. Definitely keep an eye out for this card. Next up, we have another brand new unit called Mischievous Mirai. It's a 2 mana, 2 might unit with hidden. And then when you play me to a battlefield, you deal 2 damage to an enemy unit here. So extremely powerful card. Rengar's mechanic works with hidden as well. When you reveal the hidden unit, it's considered playing a unit. And our leader says when you play a unit, give a unit +1. So you can reveal this for 3 might, and you can deal 2 damage to an opponent's unit at the same battlefield. So you can create some positive trading scenarios, and this deck actually has a very valid chance at holding onto a battlefield. I'll come back to the signature spell later when we talk about the spells. Next unit in this deck is First Mate. I think First Mate is just one of the staples of orange decks. This card gives you like pseudo accelerate because none of our units besides Kaisa currently have Accelerate. Um, so it combos really well in the mid and late game to get like Inferna onto a battlefield, for example. For 5 energy, you can have a 4 might unit that's attacking a battlefield. And then you can start ambushing onto that battlefield with other stuff like the Grim Apothecary, the Nidalee, or the Lord Broadmane, or your Rengar. So any of your what you guys can see how the ambush synergy is kind of coming together as your main combat trick. First mate's also really good for like if your unit managed to hold a battlefield, you can recall the unit to base, play first mate, and then ready it again to go to the other battlefield. So it's like a pseudo method of ganking. It's a good card to play around like fight or flight. If they fight or flight your unit, you can play first mate and send them back into combat. And you know, there's just a whole bunch of uses for this card. It's a very versatile card, I think. And the best part is it costs no power. So I think you have to just play 3 of this card. All right, next up, Grim Apothecary. I talked about this card a little bit. I think this card is kind of what is going to be another glue piece of this deck. Just getting maximum value out of your leader ability by replaying units turn after turn and getting the +1 might is really strong. And then you do have units who have abilities on play, such as itself. You can, if you get like 2 of these, you can like loop them forever, which is pretty useful. Other than that, you have Lord Broadbane, who what says when you play me, you can give other units assault +1. So calling this back is really nice. Other reasons to play this card, like if your opponent's targeting something with like a hidden blade, if they're targeting it with any kind of removal spell, you can play Grim Apothecary to a battlefield where you already have units and um, return another friendly unit. And the friendly unit doesn't have to be at the same battlefield. It could also be at a different battlefield. It just won't work for a unit that's in base. So most of the time, this deck does require your units to be on battlefield. So holding becomes a much bigger part of your strategy. But yeah, this Grim Apothecary, lots of nice synergies with this deck. So at the end, the best part, it costs no power. All these cards that cost no power are going to be extremely important. You want to go at least 3 turns, if possible, without paying any power costs. So these cards like Inferna, the Fey Folk, Beans, Noxious Hopeful, even Kaisa, and Pike, all these kind of cards, you get to develop them early, and by getting to like 6+ runes without paying a power, you have a really good chance of just going the entire game without ever lacking rune tempo. Earlier on, I was thinking, hey, maybe we should play Seals, but I just don't think in a deck that's as aggressive as this deck, you can really afford to draw into a Seals. I think every card you draw into has to impact the battlefield in some way, so that the deck's engine just keeps on chugging along, especially when you have a card like Fresh Beans. So next up is Nidalee. This is a 3 energy 4 might unit with costing 1 power, and also has ambush. Nidalee is part of your drop package. It says when I win a combat, draw 1. So the reason this card's a 2 of right now and not a 3 is because it tends to be quite hard to keep the Nidalee around after combat. There's an argument to play it at 3 because its shining moment is in the early game when your opponent's unit will be too weak to kill this in a combat, say in combination with something like a Fey Folk. So I don't know, the space in the deck is kind of tight, and I've been having trouble fitting everything with the ratios that I want. So as I test more, this card might go back up to 3, and I'm not too sure what I would cut for it right now, but just because in the mid to late game, this card tends to be quite weak, even though it's a 3 mana +5 might to a battlefield, it ends up usually just dying. So you almost never get the draw after the early game, which is so that's kind of why I'm low on it right now. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes on it. I think you still include it because it has the ambush keyword, and drawing cards is, pretty important. Next we have Pike. Pike's another brand new unit. So this is 3 energy, 0 power with 2 might base. Pike has hidden, Pike has ganking, and Pike reads, you may pay an additional red power as a cost to play me. When you do play me, if you paid this additional cost, you can ready me and give me +2 might this turn. So for 3 energy, 1 power, and with Rengar's ability, you again have +5 might trick, and Pike enters ready in base, so it's kind of like it's pretty much like an accelerated unit. The hidden factor is one of the best parts because you can pay a power to hide it and then pay another power as the additional cost when you reveal it and get the +5 that way too. If you set yourself up early, paying these 2 power should not take you too far behind on runes. And the +5 might swing for a hidden card is extremely powerful, especially when you consider that you can combo it off with more ambush cards in your hand. So currently this card's a 3 of, because again, these cards that cost no power are the cards that I want to max out on so that my early game is continually flowing. Over time, as I test more, these ratios will get adjusted. I think Kai'Sa needs no introduction. I think this is just one of the staples in any red-orange deck. Accelerate, when I conquer, draw 1. So unlike Nidalee, Nidalee reads when I combat, draw 1. When I win a combat, draw 1. Kai'Sa reads when I conquer, draw 1. So conquering means that you can just conquer an empty battlefield and get the draw, whereas Nidalee is not allowed to do that. I think this will differentiate the power level of these 2 cards tremendously, so Kai'Sa will always be a 3 of. Also, Kai'Sa is just a really strong 4-drop that can be played in base on turn 2, and it won't cost you a power. Noxious Hopeful, this is another card that I want in the deck for turn 2 purposes. The ultimate peak turn 2 is you play a Beans and you get the Legion for Hopeful and play the Hopeful after that. We play also enough 2-drops between the Inferno, the Feyfolk, and the Mirai that you can trigger the Legion quite easily for the Hopeful. And even on later turns when you have to play like a 3-drop like a First Mate or a Pike, or maybe you have like a spell to play like your signature spell, you can get Legion that way. So I think getting the Legion off is pretty easy throughout the game. But I think the upside of your turn 2 being Fresh Beans plus Noxious Hopeful is one of the best turn 2s that's available in this game. And finally, for the units, we have Lord Broadmane, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might unit that says Ambush. You may play me as a reaction to a battlefield where you have units. And when you play me, you give your other units here Assault this turn. So if you have a board state where you attack with like I don't know, like say it's with your Feyfolk, you attack with the Feyfolk, move in, you have some other unit supporting it, like a Noxious Hopeful or an Inferno or whatever. As long as you're attacking with multiple units, this card gets its value. This card is contesting with this orange Rengar and possibly some other top end units at the 5 energy mark. Stuff like Darius, stuff like Yone, even something like this 4-drop Rengar that costs a power. So I'm not super sold on this card. I'm going to test it out. I think the Assault +1 for every unit at a battlefield, it is quite appealing to me. The fact that it only works on offense might be a turnoff. So I'll observe this more, but I think 1 to 2 copies is probably where I would be at on this card, and there's a lot of other cards that are still down here that I want to fit in the deck or try. All right, so we can talk about the spells real quick. I'm doing 1 copy of Punch first and 1 copy of Against the Odds. The Punch first, I don't want to deramp too quickly, so this is more of like a late game card, and it forces your opponent to just respect at any time you have 1 energy up. Against the Odds, I think, is one of the only ways to really come back in a game. It's another card that also works on both offense and defense. So I really like my combat tricks to uh, have text on both sides of the coin. Sabotage, I believe, is going to be a big card this meta, with how many spell-heavy decks there are, like Diana, like Vex, and other decks that like Jin and stuff that are all going to be very spell-heavy decks. And just having hand knowledge of what your opponent has is always really good. I think this card has been a staple in orange decks for a very long time. Some people might play one, some people might play three. Just for space purposes, I'm only playing two right now. Maybe I will find space for a third later. And last but not least, we have Rengar's signature spell, Thrill of the Hunt. This card is a reaction speed spell, 2 energy, 1 power. Banish a friendly unit, then its owner place it to any battlefield, ignoring its cost. This is a 10 out of 10 power level signature card, and this is like the main reason to play Rengar. Any time your opponent targets one of your units with like a spell, with an ability, etc., you can react with Thrill of the Hunt by banishing your unit. Whatever spell or ability has targeted your unit will fail to resolve, and Thrill of the Hunt will save your unit, replay it at a battlefield of your choosing, and then also with your legend, you'll get a +1 on that unit. So extremely, extremely, extremely versatile card. Very, very difficult for your opponent to play around this. I think this is, just 10 out of 10 on the power scale level. I don't think it needs any more explanation. Okay. Uh, I'll talk about the side deck cards here. These are cards that are in consideration that I want to play. I'm just not sure how to fit them in yet. So as I'm testing some of these slots, I'll just take those cards out and put these in and see how they perform. So Cleave, I think Cleave is the card that works best with Nidalee in order to make sure that Nidalee wins combat and lives. Especially being like a cheap 1 mana spell, your deck is probably going to be low on runes almost all the time. So you want to have a cheap attacker like an Inferno or a Nidalee, and you want to have a cheap combat spell to back them up so they can reach those breakpoints. Challenge has just been a staple card in orange for set 1 and set 2. It hits the back line. It makes sure that when you're winning, you stay winning. And it can also create some favorable trading situations. Say, for example, you are using Inferna, who, once she's attacking a battlefield, her might will go from base of 1 all the way up to 4 with your legend plus her assault. If I'm playing something like Cleave, then maybe I can even get her to 7. Say I drop a challenge in the middle of that showdown, and I choose an opponent's unit whose might is like 5 or 6. I can force a favorable trade to kill off that unit while still dealing up to 7 damage in the showdown. And I just create these really nice, favorable 2-for-1 situations that ensures that my cheap units are being traded out for more powerful enemy units. We have a new card here, Smite, 2 energy, 1 power. It's an action that says deal 3 to a unit out of battlefield, and if it would die this turn, banish it instead. I think there's a lot of cards with death knell effects, especially in yellow. If those cards are top tier meta, this is one of the cards that you'd want to consider playing in your side deck most likely. Next we have Stare Down. It's a 2 mana spell that says choose a friendly unit in a battlefield, move all enemy units at that battlefield with less smite than the chosen unit to the base, and gain 1 XP. We don't really care about the XP portion of this, but just moving opponents' units off of a battlefield can again create favorable situations for you. It's also one of the better ways to deal with the purple Vex that got printed. Let me pull that card up really quick. This purple Vex that got printed that says it has deflect, and when an opponent plays a unit while I'm at a battlefield, stun it, and that opponent cannot move this turn. So with this card, you get to push their Vex back, and now your ambush is turned on again. So it's a pretty good consideration. I'm expecting purple decks to be playing this Vex in some capacity across the board. So this card Stare Down is going to be one of those side deck considerations for now. Next we have Set 2's Rengar. This card basically has Ambush because it has the text that says reaction, play at any time, even before spells and abilities resolve, including to a battlefield you control. So if you're attacking, sorry, so you, yeah, so you can, if you're attacking a battlefield, you can play this card. If you're defending a battlefield, you can play this card. And if you want to just play this card to your base on the opponent's turn, you can do that too. So it's a little bit more versatile than Ambush because it doesn't have the Ambush keyword. Um, it also has pretty much the same stat line as this Nidalee. Actually, sorry, it would have one more might because of your legend ability on the turn you play it. So with Assault 2, it would be at 5, and then your legend ability takes it to 6. So it's a 3 mana, 1 energy, or 3 mana, 3 energy, 1 power unit that can give you a +6 swing on attack. We're already quite good at attacking, but if I feel like we need more power in the deck, more juice, this is one of the cards I would play. Next, we have a new card in the set called Undying Legion, 3 energy, 3 might, 0 power. And this card says, Legion, you may play me from your trash for 3 energy and a red power. So against these like control heavy, spell heavy removal decks, this is one of those cards that just keeps coming back over and over and over again, and it helps you execute your game plan against those by just always having a unit. Thermal Beam is just always going to be a good side deck card. The only card in our deck that's a gear is Beans. If I'm able to trade, 1 or 2 of my Beans for like 4 of my opponent's gear, I think I'll take that trade almost anytime. And then finally, we have Ferris Forerunner. This fills a similar role as the Undying Legion, but it's a little bit stickier, and you get your value right away for a power, whereas the Undying Legion might cost you multiple power over the course of multiple turns. And orange has one more new card called Repulse. And this card is obviously extremely strong. So 1 energy, 1 power, reaction speed, choose a friendly unit at a battlefield, counter an enemy spell or ability that chooses it and no other friendly unit. So we already do have Thrill of the Hunt, which kind of does this for us by banishing the unit that's being targeted and then replaying it to the same battlefield. So it's a little bit redundant in that sense. However, if the meta shapes up to be a whole lot of spells and abilities that choose units in order to advance the deck strategy, then having copies of Repulse will counter that. So I think this card is slightly more versatile than Unyielding Spirit, even though Unyielding Spirit would save your units in base and such too, and it would save all your units. This card will only save 1 unit. But spells in this game tend to single target focus on a unit rather than multi-target, with the exceptions being like Falling Star and Singularity and such. Alright, and then we can talk about the battlefields here. So far I've picked these 3, but there's a bunch more battlefields that are completely viable. We can talk about the new battlefield that we have here, Forbidding Waste. While the unit here is defending alone, it has -2 might. So I thought this would be extremely strong for decks that go top heavy. Their 8 might, 9 might, 10 might, or even 12 might defender is cut down by 2. As you can see, our deck doesn't really go too tall. The biggest unit that we have that when it attacks would be at 7 on the turn of. So with that being the case, this might be pretty nice card to have to break people's holds. And a lot of decks in the meta may not have buff spells, and our deck completely relies on combat and showdowns in order to remove opponents' units. So this battlefield could be very punishing for the opponent to hold if they don't have multiple units there. Another battlefield to consider here is Valley of Idols, and this one says when a player plays a unit here, they may pay 1 to buff it. So this directly works with our leader ability, our ambush ability. By when we ambush onto a battlefield, it's considered playing a unit to the battlefield, so we can pay one energy and get another +1 might on the unit. It also works if we use our signature spell and play our unit to this battlefield. We can pay another energy and get a buff on the unit. So sometimes, just to hit those breakpoints in might, this card can come in handy. And the buff is permanent, so your units are just slightly less vulnerable on the opponent's turn as well. Other battlefields to consider, I like this Targon's Peak. When you conquer here, ready 2 runes at the end of this turn. This gives you a bigger reach on your ambush cards, so you have a higher chance of playing your 5 energy ambush cards on the opponent's turn, and you're not just floating 5 energy and making it very obvious. You can end your turn at 3 energy up and go up to 5. Obviously, the downside on this battlefield is pretty much every deck in the meta gets value off of this battlefield. So it's not a one-sided battlefield, but it does help you a good amount. Another battlefield to consider is Emperor's Dais, or Days, not sure how to pronounce it. When you conquer here, you may pay 1 energy and return a unit you control here to its owner's hand. If you do, play a 2 Might Sand Soldier unit token here. So this is really nice if, especially for these cards like Inferna and Feyfolk, also for some of our hidden cards like Pike and Mischievous Mirai, you're just getting more of this Grim Apothecary effect. You get to bring your unit back and you just put up a sacrificial sand soldier onto a battlefield. And then say the opponent wants to attack that battlefield. If you have any runes up, your ambush units that you just returned to your hand are still live to defend that battlefield. And also to hide cards with, again, off the Mirai. So early game, you could go like Conquer with Mirai, return it back to your hand with Emperor's Dais, play the Sand Soldier token, and then hide the Mirai there. And now your battlefield is extremely hard for them to break. The other one is, there's a few more. I'll just talk about 1 or 2 more here to wrap it up. There's Trefarian War Camp. So if we end up in game states where we're swarming a lot and this Lord Broadmane is better than I think it is, the Trefarian War Camp would help us a lot. This card also helps battle spell heavy, removal heavy decks. Whenever they want to target your units, all your units will have an extra might on them, so they might hit certain breakpoints on their kill spells. So yeah, I think I'll just end up here with some parting thoughts now. The deck is extremely fun to play. It's extremely aggro. Games will go quick. If you like this playstyle, you'll like this a lot. Strengths of the deck, we have the signature spell, I think, is the biggest strength of the deck. At reaction speed, this is one of the best signature spells printed in the game. It gives you mobility. It gives you the ability to dodge spells and abilities that target your units. So this card just, this card makes you want to play the deck. The other strength, I think, is the orange Rengar. For 5 energy and 1 power, you get a 7 might attacker or defender, and this card can be played directly from your hand onto a battlefield, so it has pseudo accelerate built into it. Some weaknesses of the deck. This is a very tempo heavy oriented deck. You need to build up your units in base as fast as possible. You need to control battlefields and win combats in the early to mid game without fail. If you fail to win some early to mid game combats, you might find it to be very, very challenging to claw back into the game. And that's just one of the weaknesses of Red Orange. Lucian played the same way, where if you make one mistake, the whole tempo of the game is completely in your opponent's hand, and you're not able to find a comeback into the game. That is where I think a card like Against the Odds does help if your opponent has a big grip onto a battlefield. By having multiple units there, this is one of the few cards that can actually get you back into the game. So yeah, that's our deck profile here. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about this deck. I'm going to be playing this a lot. I'm going to consider playing some Lilia and Kha'Zix as well. I'm going to try and put deck profiles up for them too. And then as I get more testing in and as I get to learn the set better, expect more content on that in the future. All right, guys, leave your comments, leave your thoughts and feedback below for me, and I'll catch you later.